You want to fly? You got to give up the shit that weighs you down. Toni Morrison. This quote is perfect, since we're discussing Jordan Mailata, whose NFL's team slogan is Fly Eagles Fly. I draw personal interest from this story not only because I'm a huge NFL fan from Sydney, but whilst Jordan went from playing footy to conquering the NFL, I went from playing Madden and NCAA 14 for nearly 10 years to talking about Rugby League. So how did a kid from Bankstown and Southwest Sydney end up as the starting tackle for a team that just won the Super Bowl? We're not here to discuss how well he's performing in the NFL, but to dive into what led him to this point, the journey before the NFL, the challenges and the experiences that ultimately paved the way for his current career with the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome to Harbour NRL. Let's kick off. Now, right out the gate, I can't emphasize enough how unlikely it is, even with the international player pathways introduced in 2017, for someone to find themselves in the position that Jordan is now. So let's go ahead and knock that out the way early. Back in 2004, the NFL introduced an initiative to provide talented international athletes with the opportunity to develop their skills and earn a chance at making it into the NFL. The initiative was known as the NFL International Development Practice Squad Program. A bit of a mouthful, right? Clearly, from the name, it wasn't fully developed, and the program was eventually scrapped in 2009. After a 7-year hiatus in early 2016, former NFL players Aiden Durd, who played linebacker for the Panthers and Chiefs, as well as two-time Super Bowl champion and former New York Giant Ossie Umenyiora, saw the lack of guidance for international players without US high school or college experience. To address this, they used their NFL contracts to create a training program and arranged tryouts for a select group of players scouted mainly through YouTube, bro. This initiative became what we know today as the International Player Pathways, or IPP, which is fully supported by the NFL and featured in the 2018 miniseries NFL Undiscovered. There's subsections to the IPP too, like Pro Kick Australia, which is why we see so many damn Aussies in college football and the NFL as punters. But now that we've got the player pathways out the way, let's move on. Our story begins in Bankstown, New South Wales, where Lafoa Jordan Mailata was born to immigrants from Western Samoa. His father Tupa'i Mailata and his mother Maria raised 5 children. Funnily enough, it was his sister who chose his middle name, and what we know him as today, Jordan, inspired by none other than the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Now, for those of you that might be tuning in outside of Australia, Bankstown is a gritty suburb. Not exactly plush, but not a wasteland either. Think of a blue-collar, multicultural, and tight-knit community. Although I do have quite a bit of family from Bankstown myself, they'll all tell you it's a shithole. His father came across as a no-nonsense figure. Jordan once shared a story about his dad giving him a hard time over how he ate chicken wings. First for wasting food, and then later on eating them too fast like a dog. It's a small moment, but it paints a picture of a household where discipline and high expectations were the norm. His younger brother Milo has said that their dad made it clear from a young age that sports weren't just for fun. They were about winning. I mean, they are. They are at the end of the day. But it definitely hints at a competitive and very driven atmosphere at home. With that being said, Jordan always embraced his Samoan roots with music, specifically the acoustic guitar. If any of you grew up in Sydney's West, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was always somebody with an acoustic guitar. It was just how things were. As many of Polynesian descent would agree, Jordan believes it firmly connects him to his culture, and while he described his beginnings as humble, he hasn't detailed anything too crazy in his youth. Jordan was also in touch with his creative side. While attending Condell Park High, he developed an interest in musical theatre and even competed in a talent show. This is significant because it shows he believed there was more to life than just sports and didn't solely focus on grinding his footy skills during his childhood. Jordan and his 3 brothers played rugby league for the Bankstown Bulls, with Jordan starting around 2002 at age 5. Given his size though, he could have started earlier or even played in an older age group. Regardless of the details, by 2014 at age 17, he'd caught the attention of the Canterbury Bulldogs SG Ball program, also known as the under-18s at the time. Fast forwarding 1 year, just 1 week before their first scheduled game of the season with the Doggies, he collapsed during a routine preseason training session. When asked about the incident, he said, "I had no idea what happened," assuming it was simply due to him being unfit and not really giving it much more thought. It wasn't until a few months later when he collapsed again. This time he was rushed to the hospital for emergency heart surgery. It would later come to light that he suffered from Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, a rare congenital heart defect that affects 1 to 3 out of 1,000 people. Mailata recalls he was either born with it or it developed through puberty. Understandably, Jordan was asked to take it easy for a while, quoted as saying, "After that, I put on so much weight and was not allowed to exercise with the heart condition, jumping from 147 kilos to 166 in this time," which again, for my American viewers, would be around 320 pounds to 360 pounds. And although he returned to the game just 18 months after the initial surgery, his spot with the SG ball team was gone. He was officially cut. After 2 heart surgeries and plenty of time to reflect on his future, Jordan decided to give footy another go, this time with his brothers by his side. In 2016, he returned to play A grade for 5 Dock Rugby League, and his coach at 5 Dock, Jamie Eade, seems like a real stand-up bloke. Often referred to as the guy who worked with Jordan Mailata during his return to rugby league after the heart conditions, Eade seems far more like a mentor than anything else. Someone who really cared for Jordan, not just for his ability, but his character. You knew he was destined for something. Jamie Eade had been a fan of Mailata since the Canterbury days, and he has a lot of crazy stories from on the field too. Like the time he apparently carried 5 defenders near full field 100 meters for a try. I can't remember who he played, but he literally caught the ball, ran 100 meters to score, and carried 5 players on his back. That's where it was like, this kid is going to do something with his life. Bearing in mind that most rugby league players aren't the height or size of what Jordan Mailata was. 6'8", and considering the heart surgery layoff, we'll say around 160 kilos. That is a very, very, very big guy on a footy field. It was instances like this that got the attention of Ben Rogers, a recruitment agent for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And fast forwarding to 2017, he officially joined the Bunnies under-20s team, also known as the Holden Cup. And this was a stacked year for the competition too. Just to name a few players from the 2017 Holden Cup Team of the Year: Kalen Ponga, Patrick Carrigan, Sione Katoa, Jesse Ramian, Payne Haas, and Victor Radley. Unfortunately, the Bunnies didn't make the semis this year, just barely missing out in 9th on the ladder, still higher than the Doggies who finished 14th that year, had he somehow stuck around with them into the under-20s. In 12 appearances with the Bunnies, he scored 8 tries, which is pretty damn good. I can imagine being 3 meters out from the try line, being the dummy half, and just offloading it to a 6'8", 160 kilo guy would probably end in tries more times than not. In fact, I don't think there's many people on planet Earth who could stop a sprinting Jordan Mailata 3 meters out from the try line. He was so big, in fact, he towered over first grade Rabbitohs George and Sam Burgess respectively. And this would be a common theme. A lot of people get told that they're too small to play rugby league, but I feel like it would be so difficult to be told that you're too big to play rugby league. But that did happen a lot. Jordan was told that he was too tall to play rugby league. Now, due to his size and weight, and given how differently rugby league works from the NFL, the Rabbitohs had some unrealistic expectations for the young Mailata. Now, coming back from heart surgeries and all that stuff has to already be insanely tough. He had already trimmed down 28 kilos from his initial size, which again in pounds is a massive amount, but the Rabbitohs staff still wanted him to lose more weight. Mailata was quoted as saying, "They wanted me to lose 15 more kilos. It was entirely impossible. I was already sitting at 10% body fat. Another 15 kilos wasn't healthy at all." A similar thing could be compared to the UFC, where guys walk around outside of fights pretty overweight, compared to what we're seeing them at least. But when it comes time to the fights, you start seeing the big gaps in their cheeks and stuff because they've cut so much weight just for the fight. And then as soon as the fight is over, bang, you're packing on the pounds again. But imagine cutting down so much and being forced to live your life like that year round. Hearing things like this makes me think that without Mailata saying it himself, he was starting to get frustrated with being told how he should be, rather than the club embracing who he was and utilizing him in the right way. For example, the Panthers utilized Spencer Leniu off the bench in the perfect way, and it was a big reason how they controlled the battle of the forwards, the battle in the middle. I really do think at a first grade All-Pro level, Jordan could have been used perfectly the same way the Panthers used Spencer Leniu. But again, I'm just here making YouTube videos, so what do I know? Following the somewhat successful 2017 campaign, the Bunnies offered him a whopping $5,000 contract to play for their reserve feeder team, the North Sydney Bears, which doesn't seem like a lot. In fact, it's not a lot, but I guess they just wanted him to work during this time with the Bears and see how it would all play out. I'm not really sure on that one, tried to find more info, but yeah, his entire contract with the Bears would have been $5,000 for the entire year. Now compare that to Jordan's current $66 million US contract that has a $20 million signing bonus and $48 million guaranteed, which works out to be, I don't know, like 135 million Australian dollars. I'm glad he didn't take the 5,000. In fact, the 5,000 pisses me off now. He also just flat out said because he wasn't considered as an immediate NRL prospect of the future, referring to the Bunnies' desire to ship him off to the Bears feeder club, he wasn't fully committed to the grind of rugby league at that exact stage, which is understandable from both the club side and Jordan's side considering all he'd been through up to this point. Now let's talk about the stars aligning for a second. Remember all the way back in the video, we went through the NFL's desire to recruit elite athletes from around the world. Well, it just so happened that Jordan found himself in a bit of a career crossroads at the exact same time the PLL was gaining momentum with rugby and rugby league players for the nature of their respective sports being the prime targets. And now because of the Rabbitoh stint and the coverage that the Holden Cup gets, he was finally able to get film to show. Jordan's agent Chris Orr played an extremely crucial role here. Chris saw a great opportunity beyond rugby league and connected Mailata with the IPP. Mailata was hesitant at first. He'd seen NFL highlights but had never even watched a full-length NFL game and didn't really know the rules. But the desire to grow as a person, the potential for bigger earnings, yes, we're all looking at you $5,000, mixed with a sense of a completely fresh start, the whole thing sounded very enticing. I do see some whispers of his family being a bit apprehensive at first, which is totally understandable. Jordan himself said, "I got knocked out," with a laugh. After all the work he'd put in to get healthy after the heart scare, the early work starts just to go off to training with the Rabbitohs. He was going to throw all of that away for a potential fairy tale. You damn right he was. So in March 2018, he headed to Florida's IMG Academy for a 10-week crash course in American football before the 2018 NFL draft. He trained along with other NFL hopefuls in the program, such as Christian Scotland Williamson, another extremely tall and heavy rugby union player looking to also make the switch, and everything seemed to have gone great. Although he didn't declare in the traditional sense a college athlete would, the IPP would wrap up their camp with their very own pro day. Now this again wasn't a traditional pro day like we'd see in Indianapolis. Instead it was designed to showcase raw athleticism to all 32 teams. Question was, who was going to take the bait? He ended up with a 5:12 second 40-yard dash, a 30-inch vert, and demonstrated agility that you could only get playing rugby league, I'm telling you. Again, all of this at 6'8" and 157 kilos, or 346 pounds, safe to say. A lot of scouts were impressed, including the Eagles offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, who famously skipped a golf trip to attend that event, later saying Mailata's workout tape screamed unicorn. A rare blend of size and potential. The Eagles would take a flyer on Jordan come the 2018 draft and selected him with the 233rd pick in the 7th round. And the best part of stories like this is that the story is not over yet. And if you did watch Super Bowl 59, you would have saw Jordan at the ceremony holding his Aussie flag high with pride as his team celebrated. That day, he not only won his first Super Bowl, a feat not many players achieved their whole career, but become the first ever Australian to win one too. I actually need to double check that, because maybe there was a punter who won one, but like, you know, not that punters aren't players, but like, no, I'm sure that this research would have glossed over punters, is all I'm saying. The most important thing is he made sure all of us back home felt just as much a part of that win as he did. Hell of a story, and I, like many Australians, wish Jordan the absolute best in his future endeavours. But that is going to wrap up how a former South Sydney Rabbitoh became a Super Bowl champion. If you did enjoy this video, consider leaving a like or even subscribing. I do have 2 more videos on the channel, one being a Greg Inglis career retrospective and a funny story about how the Balmain Tigers almost tried to steal the grand final back in the day. Until next time, take it easy.